Okay guys, I'm going to do a thermostat replacement. This is a 93 S10 pickup. This is going to be a quick video. No bull crap, just this is how you do your thermostat if you don't know how. You want to make sure you know what engine you got. It's 4.3 liter, little Vortec engine, carbureted, throttle body setup, whatever you want to call it. Right into there. That's your thermostat in that housing. Basically, we got to take the air cleaner off, take this hose off, a couple bolts down there. Have yourself a catch can down below to kind of attempt to catch something. You're not going to catch it all. You're going to make a mess. So have a little kitty litter or floor dryer or something. Other than that, this is a super easy project. So we'll start with taking this off. And we'll take these off. It shouldn't take you any longer than a half hour to do. You can do it on the side of the road too. Not a big deal. So you got that out of the way. Clean up your rat's nest if you got one. Then you can either just take these two bolts out, or you can take your hose off. It's going to be easier for me to get to that hose clamp if I just take the whole housing off. So that's what we'll do. This is a 9/16 for me. Apparently I put them on a little too tight. I need a ratchet for that one. You want a ratchet and a short 1-foot extension. And it should break loose. I doubt. Nope. Can't do it one-handed. Can't do it with two. Got it. And you just take your bolts out. This one's a stud. It's actually a bolt. See, that's all one piece, and then a stud on top of the bolt. It's not the nut on a piece of thread. So keep in mind where that was. This was on the front side. It's really just for accessories, which we have no accessories. This is where you make a mess. Just like that. Keep your hose up higher than the rest of the stuff. If you can find a way to kind of jam it up there. Yeah, it's going to make a little mess. You want to clean that up a little bit. Now I'll come back here real quick. Horses like I do, it's likely you have a syringe handy, as in right beside you, next to all the wife's treats, and she's a treat junkie, but you want to just kind of suck that down a little bit and get that out of your way. You want that kind of dry. So to recap where we was, I took that housing off. This is all that you're doing. Taking this off, and this here's your thermostat if you don't know. My old one was stuck open. You could see a gap right inside there. This one's a new one. However, I'm taking this back apart. You know, I kind of did a deal where cross thread's better than no thread type deal. Took the old one out, the O-ring. This little bugger here goes on the outside of your thermostat, seals it up. Parts guy didn't give me one with the thermostat naturally, and the old one was junk, so I just kind of threw that in there. Cross thread's better than no thread, just threw it together. It was leaking a lot of water through there, wasn't sealing up right. I knew it would, but I needed to get to town so I could get this and do some other things. So basically what you're wanting to do now is I got to clean all this gasket maker off, all that stuff. You want it just nice and clean. Don't go crazy with it. Maybe touch it with a little sandpaper. This should come off with a screwdriver or knife or something. And make sure this This is clean. Get some of this black crap off there. A little bit of sandpaper action. Get cleaned up, put it back together. Before you started this project, get you some shop towels. You're making a mess. Spend the $6.99 or whatever. Just bite the bullet. Get you some shop towels. You're going to want them. Now there's really only a couple things that matter how you do this job. First of all, this needs to go in like that, spring down. The spring is what the heat gets to, and it makes it compress and whatnot. And then on this deal, you'll notice, see if I can get it to focus, probably not. There's that lip there, there's one that's thicker than the other. You can't see it on the camera, but you're going to want the thicker part to be facing down. Because if you look, there's a nice big lip in there, and this is flat. There's no lip there. So you put the skinnier part on top of your thermostat, and then it'll seat correctly. But that's really the only thing that matter. So I'll put that on real quick. Got that put on real quick. You just set it right in there just like that. And if you do it right, you'll feel just a little lip. It's a little bit higher than the housing itself, or the block, whatever you want to call that. It's on the intake manifold. That way this deal will push down on it, kind of squeeze it a little bit, seal it up good. Because you don't want any water coming around that seal, because that defeats the purpose of your thermostat. And then this guy, I got him kind of clean. I'll run a little sandpaper on it right quick. Cleaned up, sandpaper. I use 320 grit. Really doesn't matter. Don't use 180, that's a little too rough. But 320, 400. And then put a little coat of this gasket maker on there. This is what I use. I don't know, water pump gasket maker, whatever it's for. Well, if you're like me, you used this before, and that's all dried up in there, and it's dried up down in here too. So cut you a hole in the bottom. That'll work as well. Don't get just a super thick coat, because when you squish it down, you don't want it to squish down inside there and then get it in your water pump. So just put plenty on there and then wipe off what you don't need. One nice thin coat. And if you notice, there's a little angle on this. You want that angling the correct way, whatever way that is for you. You just set it in there. Get you a bolt started. It's not a very particular job. All that really matters is you're sealing the water. So, and then you just kind of snug there. Snug there. Snug the crap out of it. If you're doing this without a little fancy impact like that, don't get it stupid tight. You're just sealing water. Don't break anything off that's going into aluminum threads, so keep that in mind. Then you find your hose clamp, wherever that went. Hold on a second. Find your hose clamp, you're going to realize that you already put the base on, housing on. So nothing a screwdriver can't fix. If you can't reach that, hit you 5/16 on your ratchet. Snug it up, don't get super tight. If you're just holding water, it's not that much pressure. And then you're going to put this stuff back on. You got her all back together. Super simple little deal to do. So what you're going to do to finish this job is you took a lot of antifreeze, or maybe a quart, lost out of there. So you're going to want to start the truck, let it run for a while, and let all the air kind of purge out of there. Once in a while, just kind of squeeze on that. You can hear that. If you don't hear air moving around when you're squeezing on it, then you got it purged out of there. You let it warm up, and it's going to take a while. You got to let the truck get up to 185 wherever that thermostat opens up. I'd put a 185 in this. You go 165, that's too cool. 195. That's a little hot. This came with 185, so keep it that way. If you put a thermostat that's too cool in it and you work it too hard, that thermostat's going to open up earlier, and eventually when you're working the tar out of it, it's going to just keep cycling that water through there, and then you're going to overheat because you're keeping it too cool, because it doesn't have enough time sitting in the radiator to cool off. Now, to diagnose this problem, I knew I had a bad thermostat or stuck open because this winter it wouldn't warm up to maybe 110, 120. So my heater was really cold. I never had time to do this, or never took the time to do this because I don't drive this truck all that much. I'm over here driving that hunk of junk all the time. I just dealt with it. So I knew it was stuck open because it was running cold. Now if it's running hot, it may be stuck closed. Or, very common deal, this has a viscous fan. So a mechanical fan down in there. That booger. Can't really see it very well. But anyway, if your fan clutch isn't working correctly, like this one's not because it's running cold in the wintertime and it's running hot in the summertime. It's stuck open. It runs hot when you got your AC running, driving through town. So that fan's not pulling, you can't hear it. So you're going to want to replace your fan clutch if you can't hear it turning when it gets hot, or if it gets, I mean honestly, if it gets up to 200 in town, that's too hot. It shouldn't get over 185, 190 unless you're pulling a load with it, which, you know, you got an S10, you shouldn't be pulling much of a load. Anything more than what you can fit in the bed or a lawnmower on the trailer, that's plenty for this little pickup. It's not made to do a whole lot of work. But anyway, that would be how you diagnose this. If it's getting hot or running cold, your thermostat's bad. If it's getting hot in town, your fan clutch is not doing so well. So just replace it. This thermostat was like 15 bucks. O-ring is $3. Be sure when you go to the parts store that you got the O-ring so you don't have to do it twice like I did. Your fan clutch should be around $50, $60. It's pretty cheap stuff to run, to keep running cool. But anyway, to get your truck running, get up to temperature, it's going to cycle that water through there. And you just let it cycle a few times, just keep it topped off. You might just make sure it gets up to temperature and cycles one time, because you know you already got quite a bit of antifreeze in there. Hopefully it'll push all the air out first time. And then you can add some antifreeze to here, just kind of keep adding as it circulates until it's full, and then it stays full. You can see when your air comes out, because if you got that pretty much full. So this one I don't like because you can't see down in there very far. I mean, that's all you got right there. But you'll see the air come through them cores in there. Once that air quits coming through there and it's just water, you got it. Then just go drive it to town or whatever, like I'm going to do. And when you get back home, let it cool off. Check it again, top it off. Might be a little low, but if you ain't got no leaks, you ain't going to have no problems. Now it's best with this gasket maker in here to let it sit overnight for 24 hours to cure out. I'm not going to do that because I got to run to town. If you got time, do that. But most every thermostat I've replaced, and I've replaced a fair amount, I never have time to let it sit cure, and I've never had one leak on me. So if you need to drive it right now, if you're doing this on the side of the road, just go ahead and make sure everything's snugged up, and then go drive it, keep an eyeball on it. Drive it for a half hour and pop your hood, look it over, see if it's leaking, check your level. If you're low on coolant, you can always open that up without getting scalded. But if it's full and you open that up, you're going to get scalded. So get you a pair of leather gloves or whatever and a rag, and open it just nice and slow and let it leak out a little bit. Then you can check your level. If it is leaking out when you start to crack that open, it means it's full. So you just stop there. I think that's about it. Just kind of want to do a quick little video with Straight to the point. But that's pretty much all there is to it. Work that air out and you'll be good to go. Now we got our truck running, obviously, you can hear that. To tell if your gauge is off, you just put a new thermostat in there, so everything should move like it is. This truck is running right there, and it's holding steady. I can rev it up way high. And it doesn't really move. My phone's not really focusing here. But if you hold it at 2 grand for a little while, there, that's better. And it doesn't move ever. Kind of give it some snaps, work it a bit. Don't get it on the red line, but you can wrap it up to 3. It's a V6, ain't gonna hurt nothing. This has been running for 10 minutes or so. So that mark right there is our 185. So just remember that, which should be about right. Well, no, honestly that should be 165 according to that gauge's numbers, but that's our 185 now. So if you get her up to 210, you're higher than 210. Now, to know if it's circulating, you just feel that. That's pretty hot. That feels 185. You can hold it about that long, and then you get a little, hand gets hot. Can't hold it no more. Then you know you're circulating. And then just start filling. This is a little deal off my gas can. Makes a pretty decent little funnel if you ain't got one. So we'll just add to it real quick and go from there. So you just fill it up, and now keep in mind this is antifreezing water, so if you splash it around, it ain't gonna really do much. Just fill it up till it runs over, and then you know it's full. And you just kind of wait around a little bit and watch it. See if you see bubbles. If you see bubbles, you're getting air out. Should have most of the air out of this. Now if you notice, this is on the passenger side, so if you're real particular about air, you can jack up this side, get it a little bit higher so that air runs this way. But I think we got most all of it out. I'll just sit here and watch it for a while, rev it up a few times. What you can do, squeeze this and watch that. Now if it doesn't hop around when you're squeezing it, then you got air, but or you should be able to push a little air out of there if you squeeze it hard enough. But if it's doing that, you're probably okay to go to town or head on down the road. Probably half of you watching this will be sitting in the O'Reilly's parking lot wondering why your truck's getting hot. But this applies to almost all vehicles. Thermostats are pretty much the same. This thermostat is almost exactly the same as that Mack truck. So it looks a little different, but it does the same exact thing. So very simple. One final thing, if you got cats and dogs around and you're doing this on your concrete floor, you made a mess, don't let them lick that up. I think it can kill them, it can make them go blind, that's what I've heard. So if you do that, get you some floor dry. Kitty litter works too. It's cheaper than floor dry. And get that mess cleaned up a little bit. And you don't want your shop floor covered in crap. If you ain't got that, get you a shovel full of sand and throw it on there so they're not hurting themselves on it, because it's not good for them. Other than that, that's how you do a thermostat. Okay, so we got a little air out of this. It was bubbling and foaming out of here. Made another mess, and then it sucked it back down. So that's when you fill it back up. We got it to cycle really strong. I got the AC running, and I know my fan clutch is bad because I was sitting in there holding it at 2 grand, and you should be able to hear your fan easily, and it just kind of half-heartedly goes, ugh. Kind of like a turtle getting screwed, I guess. This little, and then it shuts off. It should kick on for, I don't know, until it cools off. It'd be a constant fan sound. And this one doesn't do that, so we need to do that fan clutch next. So you're probably not going to be able to hear it, but you know, got the truck running, AC on, got revved up a bit. And you notice it's a fair amount higher than what it was. It's sitting about 200, which may be closer to 210 actually on this gauge. But it's kind of holding steady there, which means our thermostat's open. But we also know it's open because it's sucking water down once in a while. But it's not going back down to where it was, and I'm not hearing my fan come on. I haven't heard it kick in but a few times, just half-heartedly, so that's how you know your fan clutch is bad. I guess in this video I will do the fan clutch as well, so we'll run to town and get one of them, go to the dump, do what we need to do. It'll be fine going down the road. It just gets hot in town, and sitting in the shed here working it, and we'll do that next. So we're driving, you know, not very fast. Don't worry about them on the dirt road. Nobody else is out here. And it cooled right off. I'm only a mile from the house. Cooled right off. I got my AC shut off, and it cooled right down. So that tells me that little bit of movement of air cooled it down, and I still can't hear my fan kicking in at all. So now we know 100% for sure my fan clutch is bad. Now it's like 85 degrees out or something like that, so it's warm enough that if something was major wrong with it, you know, water pump or something, it would still be hot, or it would overheat or something. But we know it's circulating, we know the thermostat's good, and it just gets hot when it's sitting still under a little bit of a load with the AC on. That's how you know for sure that your fan clutch is bad. Now we'll go get one. Okay, we done went to town and we got our part here. This is your fan clutch. If you don't know how this works, that is very sensitive to heat. So when your radiator gets hot, it'll open this valve and it lets fluid out here, and then it locks up your fan, almost locks it up. It's not complete lock up, but it's close. Then when it cools off, this thing just turns back and closes that valve. But pretty simple deal. It's just 4 bolts there and 4 bolts there. These hold your fan on. This holds it to your water pump. And shouldn't be too hard. On this particular pickup, got to take the fan shroud off, but it's kind of nice because it's a 2-piece deal. So you got a bolt there, there, and there. Then down here, you got those 2 bolts, and the same over on that side. And that should be all you need to get to that. Typical GM fashion, that's not standard. That's a 10 millimeter. Here's another way to tell if you got a bad fan clutch. Shouldn't be able to spin it, not like that. That oil will settle down in that clutch, and it ought to be, you know, you can move it for sure, but not like that. Those bolts down there, you're going to take those off, right there. Those are 1/2 inch, and it'll also make that pulley come loose. But if you're lucky, like I've always been, you can just take that off and the pulley stays on. If not, have to take your belt off, do that deal. But alright, got the new clutch on, nice and shiny, with a few shiny pieces on this deal. But if you remember the other one, it'd spin over pretty good. And this one, it don't spin at all. So this is a kind of a severe duty clutch, which hopefully it'll not spin all the time. I think it'll be just fine. But yeah, it'll be a lot better. That old clutch wasn't doing nothing. Whole lot of nothing. So we'll put this shroud back on and give her a test. Already a huge difference. You can hear that fan running. Huge difference. Alright folks, that's going to do it. That's how you do your thermostat and fan clutch. Not hard at all. Get to it. We'll catch you on the next video. If there's something particular you want to see, just bleep bloop it. Put it on down in the comments and I'll read them.